Hey, welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. My name is Salvador Briggman, and if this is your first time tuning in, we talk about everything crowdfunding. So we talk about Kickstarter, Indiegogo, e-commerce products, equity crowdfunding. Sometimes we even cover nonprofit fundraising and crowdfunding. I got started in the industry in 2012, and it's really been not only a labor of love for me, but also I think just seeing the explosion in projects the past year is insane, man. I think a lot of people thought it would slow down with COVID. I think it only went the other way, right? So we're having so many projects launch every single day. There's so much opportunity, and kind of my role in this process is to let you be the fly on the wall while I talk with some of these higher end creators. Today's creator attracted more than 1,400 backers, raised over 90K on Kickstarter. And for a lot of people, that can be very daunting, to see a project like that, or even, looked and done obviously $1 million interviews as well. It can be really daunting. And I think anytime I've entered a new space in my own life, it's always seemed quite intimidating, right? And it's always when I've had people try to explain things to me, they use jargon and big words, difficult to understand. And kind of my brand with CrowdCrux, this podcast, my name, Salvador Briggman, like everything I'm trying to do is just bring it to you in an easy to understand, fun way where you can learn stuff and you can also hear a little bit of an inspirational story. And that's kind of the whole purpose of this show, is to not only give you the goods, and in today's interview specifically, you're going to learn about, when it comes to shipping, why you actually might not want to collect shipping on Kickstarter. And this project specifically explains why they did that. And that's also currently what's going on, obviously, with manufacturing and costs related to that. One reason why you might not want to, depending on the inputs for your product and where you're shipping. Other thing you're going to learn on today's interview is how they were able to get a bunch of funding on the first day, some of the advice that they have for you in terms of how to get people to try out your product before you go live, and sort of some realistic ideas there of the number of iterations that you go through before you come to a full-fledged finished product. So you're going to hear about a lot of stuff, honestly. But again, what I like is to share these tactics and nuts and bolts and resources with you. And then we can kind of get as well into the story and why this is something that's going to change this individual's life. Like, what is the opportunity right now that is available for you? And anytime you're walking down a path in life, you can go through a bunch of different doors. And maybe one door is to go and continue the way you've been living life, or to play it safe, or to not take that risk. And anytime you're considering going down this other path or opening this other door where there is a little bit more risk and there's more uncertainty, and it's exciting, but it's also scary. I think the more that you know, and the more you hear those success stories of people who make it through that door okay and make it onto the other side and are prospering, the more confidence you build in any area of life. And that's really why I started the podcast and why we're going strong for all of these years. And just for me, I think the biggest thing you're going to take away from this interview is not only is it possible, not only are you going to get the tactics and the tricks to do it, but also you're going to hear a heck of an inspirational story on today's show. Thank you so much for listening. Again, my name is Sal. And by the way, if you want to download my audiobook, which is free, if you also get a 30-day trial of Audible, you can go to the link I'm about to mention, and you can download all of those tactics and resources as well to supplement my podcast here. And that also helps the show. You can go to crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio. That link is crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio, crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio. Go there, you can grab a copy, listen to it in the car, on the way to work, going to the gym, whatever it is. It also helps support the show. So thank you so much if you decide to support the education that way. But that being said, let's dive right into today's podcast episode. Hey guys, welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. Today, we got an incredible creator on the show who's attracted more than 1,400 backers for their project. This is for Keystone North America. Explore the beauty and wonder of North America's wildlife in this fun set collection board game. We have the creators here on the show. Guys, welcome.
Thanks for having us, Salvador.
Hey, I'm so excited to be here.
Definitely. Maybe we can get started. You could sort of introduce yourself to the audience and just sort of bite-sized of your role in playing with the project.
Yeah, sounds good. We are Rose Gauntlet Entertainment. Lindsay and I started this company back in September of 2020, and we are veterans of the board game industry. We've been working in the board game industry for about 10 years, and we've created multiple different games separately, but we've always dreamed of working together, and we finally took the chance to make that happen, created Rose Gauntlet Entertainment, and Keystone North America is our first game, and we're super excited to get it out there. We were lucky enough to have it funded. And we're just excited to start growing our community and having our company start really establishing some very interesting products down in the future as well.
Super exciting, super exciting. And how would you say your role breakdown was in working on the project? Was one of you on gameplay or both on gameplay? What was sort of the breakdown of the roles?
So me, along with my co-designer, Jeffrey Joyce, are designers on the project. I kind of act as the CEO of the company, to kind of take over the more business ends, money, accounting, things like that, as well as kind of, obviously working on the design. Lindsay did an excellent job as well as working on the field journal story, handling all of our playtesters and really taking on a great development role. Lindsay, you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I take on more of the operation side, the CEO or the COO side. And I had a lot of Kickstarter experience, so I feel like that was really something that I brought to the table for this project in particular. Done over 12 successful Kickstarters, 3 for my own games. Well, this will be the third one, technically. 2 for my own games. And a lot of writing, but Isaac and I are very collaborative.
Yes.
Both come from a design background. So while we do have the tasks broken up in different ways because no one person could tackle everything that needs to happen on this scale, there is a lot of collaboration and back and forth. And kind of, even though we have defined roles, we often blur those lines for different projects, depending on what we need.
Wearing all those different hats you got to wear to get something out there, for sure.
Yeah, and I can tell you right now, I could not have gotten through the Kickstarter world without Lindsay. She has just been an invaluable resource to be able to guide us through it.
Awesome.
And I feel the same way. There's no way Keystone would be as good of a game if it wasn't for Isaac. So.
For sure, man. So we're talking about Keystone. Maybe you can just kind of share with listeners who aren't seeing it on the page right now. You kind of tease the project for them, like what is Keystone? First thing I was thinking of for some reason was like Oregon Trail. I don't know why. It's beautiful artwork, outdoors. Can you just tell them a little bit about the gameplay and the project?
Yeah, Keystone North America is a set collection board game, like you mentioned. Players will be taking on the role of field biologists, in which they will be putting different animals into ecosystems on their player board in order to score the most points to win. The game is for 1 to 4 players. In the 2 to 4 player option, players will compete against each other in order to create the best ecosystems on their player board. Players can also choose to play solo or co-op by playing through a field journal, which allows players to tackle unique challenges in which they will go through the story of a field biologist's first year in the field and try to complete different challenges, unlock new animals as they continue on their journey. And just a wonderful game for players to really kind of understand the role of keystone species within our ecosystems and how important they are. You also learn about different animals across North America, as well as endangered species and threatened species in North America as well, and the efforts that biologists are taking across North America in order to help as species stay in their ecosystems, have their ecosystems thrive, and protect their ecosystems, and just kind of empathize with their day-to-day life.
Got it. And where did the inspiration for this come from? Because you don't see a lot of board games sort of in this niche. Where did the inspiration come from for this?
I would say definitely the inspiration came from Jeffrey Joyce, the designer and the person who came up with the concept for it. Jeff is incredibly passionate about wildlife conservation and these animals and North American habitats. And it was him that always wanted to use it as a teaching tool. Mm-hmm. So once we understood that, and one of our tenets of our company, one of our core values, if you will, is that we only make projects that the designers are incredibly passionate about. Like we only move forward with projects that speak to us with meaning. So when we saw his passion for it, number one, we knew we had to do it because it was just too cool. And number two, we wanted to make sure that we helped him achieve that goal. So we actually went as far as hiring like a wildlife and biology consultant to make sure that everything in the game is as accurate as possible. So people can really learn and speak about those environmental issues and what's happening out in the North American environment today.
That's super exciting. You guys also have some other interesting rewards, like the field journal here, this Foss leather bound field journal that also looks really cool.
Yeah, I'm really excited about the field journal. I worked a lot on the field journal, so I'm kind of biased, but I'm really excited about that field journal.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it's an excellent resource, and we're still in the refinement process of it as well, and just are super excited for people to play it. And we've just been so grateful to the amazing playtesters that we had throughout the course of the game's development, who have just helped us form and craft that field journal into an amazing, amazing resource for the game.
For sure. So at what point did Kickstarter sort of enter the picture here? I mean, you guys have obviously been thinking about this a while. You've been doing your homework. You have some great artwork there. Like, when did Kickstarter enter the picture, and why did that become a part of your story?
So I think from the very beginning, we kind of knew that we wanted to do Kickstarter. And this is at the formation of our company because community building is one of our other core values. When it comes to community building, there is almost no better format than Kickstarter because you've got your backers and you've got that chat column and they can contact you directly and they can speak to each other. And we knew moving forward that we really wanted that level of interaction from the fans to our product and the ability for them to give us feedback as the product was developing. And to this day, I still don't know a better platform than Kickstarter that allows creative entrepreneurs to reach out to their fans and their customers in such an amazing direct way as the Kickstarter format allows you to.
And I know, Lindsay, you have a little bit of experience there. What number of project is this that you've launched? Because I know you've launched a few before.
Oh, geez. This is going to be a guesstimate. I think it's number 12 that
That's
I've worked
insane.
on.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, I've done a lot. I've done a lot of Kickstarters. Probably another reason why I'm so biased toward loving how Kickstarters work. But I love doing the updates, and I've always just really enjoyed talking directly with all the backers and stuff. That's always been something that I think I would miss in a different style of business structure.
So for Isaac, I mean, you basically, this is your first time doing Kickstarter, it sounds like, and you obviously have the experience on the gameplay side and like thinking through creation. What was one of your biggest like uncertainties going into the project that you had before actually hitting that launch button?
For us, it was just kind of understanding the reception of how the game would do within the current world that we live in. Obviously, with COVID and the way that it's affected things, the board game industry has certainly not been immune from its effects, and just all the different things that have taken place throughout the course of the last year. Launching the company in itself was just a nerve-wracking experience alone, let alone kind of a culmination of all of that with launching the Kickstarter and really understanding, like, did we do the right thing here? Are people going to support us? Are they going to get behind us? And are we going to be able to continue the company with the funds that we need in order to move forward? So obviously, like, we put a lot into this as well to make sure that we can be as successful as possible, but you never know until it starts off. And luckily, we had a really good day one that solidified all of that for us. And the campaign just continued moving forward. And even behind the scenes, we had a lot of momentum as well with other foreign partners and other people reaching out to us for additional deals too once the Kickstarter came out. So we've just been incredibly grateful to the reception that we've had. But of course, we had no idea that this would be the trajectory. We just hoped.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a huge thing, and for any first-time creator to launch a project from scratch, without an audience or anything like that, it can be a little bit intimidating. Was there anything that you did leading up to this launch you think that really helped with that first day and really getting those people to show up on that first day?
Yeah, I think for us is that we really took the time to really establish who we wanted to be as a company. Lindsay and I's experience within the industry, we've seen a lot of things done differently, done the way that we didn't necessarily want them to be done throughout the course of our experience in this industry. And we just knew we wanted to be prepared in a very specific way. We strategically launched in January with not only announcing Keystone as our first project, but announcing 2 other projects as well that we were working on and planning to have come to life over the course of the years as we're growing this company. And we wanted to make sure that the people that have followed us on our other projects knew about what we were doing now and made sure that that was strategic. We've also been very, very blessed to have an amazing social media manager, Danny, who came on our team and helped us out, definitely drum up excitement during that launch and all the way up until our Kickstarter and during our Kickstarter as well. and just kind of using the connections that we have as much as possible to try to get the word out there, I think is the most important thing. Right now within the industry, there's so many projects launching all the time. So there's a lot of noise out there, and breaking through that noise is really the hardest part of making sure that you're going to be successful.
For sure. I also understand you guys did some play testing sort of leading up to it to make sure that you have something that's going to work well that people want. Do you have any thoughts on that? Like, when did you start the play testing? When did that process begin leading up to the launch and these things?
So we started the play testing months and months before, I believe at least 5 months before planning to launch that project. And we had, at the end of the day, I'm trying to think of the total number. It was over 600 playtest logs by the time we launched.
600. Jeez.
Over 600, yeah. And that doesn't count any of the gameplays, because we had also put the game out in Tabletopia a few weeks before that we released, so that people could actually play the game and try it. And so we had another couple hundred playthroughs done on Tabletopia as well. But it's a huge difference. I can't imagine launching a project without having that playtest established, because number one, it's going to point out problems before you show it off. And number two, you're going to get used to the kind of questions you're going to be asked by the backers. So you're going to have those responses kind of prepped and ready to go and polished by the time you launch. So definitely playtesting is, I think, one of the big key successes to any game, even if you're not kickstarting yet, but definitely if you are, getting those playtests in, and then if possible, getting it out on either Tabletop Simulator or Tabletopia, so that people can enjoy that product and try it out and get a feel for it while you're live.
And here's a kind of a dumb question. Let's just say that you live in an area where there aren't a lot of other gamers or people you can play the game with. Is there a way to get around that? Like, how do you get people to try out and play test the game? Or is it just, kind of you asking around and seeing who's willing to?
No, this is a great question, because this is actually something that we came up with since we were developing the game during a pandemic. So when we started developing the game, no one could be anywhere near each other. In fact, Isaac and I have not met in person since we started the company. So
wow.
Everything is gone completely digital. So there's two big ways that you can get it done. One is by doing that Tabletop Simulator and Tabletopia. I was able to have the experience from previous projects to reach out to a contact that I have that does an amazing job putting those together.
If you're worried about the fulfillment and shipping part of your Kickstarter campaign when it comes to getting out all those perks and rewards to your backers, rest assured, I've put together a complete Kickstarter fulfillment and shipping checklist for you, and it's free. This is sponsored by the folks at Fulfillrite, and they thought that you should have this checklist as part of your arsenal going into a crowdfunding campaign. If you want to get instant access to this checklist and it's free, you can go to fulfillrite.com/checklist. Again, that is fulfillrite.com/checklist. fulfillrite.com/checklist. Just go to that link and you can download it immediately.
But you can also self-teach through YouTube. YouTube is an amazing resource if you ever want to do anything and you don't know how. YouTube will help you figure it out. The other thing is called a print and play. We would send the files of the game to our play testers, and they would print it out on their computer and just kind of play with paper cards and grab bits and pieces from other board games based on our instructions, and they would play that way. And most of my personal play tests were done through that print and play system, and then probably later through Tabletopia once that got really established. But those are the two best ways to get people to play test the game if you don't have access to a group around you.
So there's actually a lot of steps that go from having this phenomenal idea and then getting it into really the form that you see now. Someone comes to your page, beautiful artwork, looks great. There's a lot of steps that went in between there, I can see.
Oh, yeah. Isaac, what's your average time to make a board game?
On average, around 2 years. This was a very, very quick project.
Well, this was because we signed it when it was already started. A lot of work that we got to skip in that process.
Right. But for this, it was still about 9 months of the process after Jeff brought it to us as well.
Got it.
But if you're going to make a board game, you're looking at least a year of work.
Makes sense. When you're putting in all that work and effort, and then it's like the day before you go live, like, what does that feel like? I'm kind of curious with Isaac, like, what did that feel like for you that night before you have to go live, right before you're hitting that button there? What were those emotions like?
Oh, I'm always nervous and anxious. I've done so many games. I believe this is my 11th game that I've released, and I'm still always, I have no idea. I'm always nervous. I'm always anxious. But, it's exciting. It's exciting to get to that point as well and just finally share the game with the world. Kickstarter is definitely a unique experience in itself as well, because of the fact that you're kind of showing the game off. You're trying to get everybody excited about the product that's still not right in front of them. So it's definitely a different experience than I've had in the past, because most of my games have released and then here's the physical product. Here you go. It's in stores, right? And now it's like, okay, well, here it is. It's coming a year from now. Back the game. Get excited about the game. So it's really, really interesting, but at the same time, it kind of is the same feeling that you get just being nervous and being anxious about how is it gonna work out? Are people gonna like it? Are people gonna back it? But luckily, we had an amazing team with us. We had amazing artists. We had an amazing person put together a fantastic Kickstarter video. So we were also just incredibly excited to just show it off.
Yeah, you've definitely done the work of assembling the team there. Now, after you kind of go live and you're transitioning to that promotional phase, I mean, from going live, you did an amazing first day, but you also grew a ton, throughout that process when you were live with the Kickstarter. Do you have any advice or ways in which people can kind of get the word out or market or promote? Anything you would share there? Because after you hit that launch button, a lot of people are like, I don't know what to do next,
Well, definitely line up some good content creators in the industry. If you have certain people that you like watching their content when they preview games, things like that, having those kinds of videos available really let people dive in and understand the product a little bit more from some different angles. So it's about getting those pre-production copies. If you can get your hands on some early copies of your game to be able to send out to content creators, that's always helpful, because it's not only advertising your game on Kickstarter, but also advertising your game through their platforms. We also did some experimentation through Facebook marketing. Not necessarily sure if that was a huge success or not. So I can't necessarily say that was definitely something we could suggest. But it did get more people to go to our page, and hopefully that got more sales. But unfortunately, Kickstarter doesn't have the perfect algorithm in order to understand whether or not you are getting those sales from your advertising revenue or just from people coming in normally. So there's a little bit of things there that we're still trying to figure out as far as when it comes to the advertising side of things. But what I think really worked for us is making sure that we put it out there early enough. People knew the game was coming. People knew our date, and we continued throughout the entire process, letting people know how things were going. We had updates every 2 days. We revealed a new animal every 2 days. We also had an initiative to be able to send out free copies to teachers around North America as well, and educators and librarians as well. And that also got people excited about the company and understanding what the brand was all about, its education roots, and understanding who we are as a company too.
Got it. And do you have anything to add to that, Lindsay?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. I think that middle part, call it the doldrums, and it's the worst part of the project. I think it's definitely the most difficult. Even as an experienced Kickstarter, manager, it is the hardest part still for me personally. But having a plan is the number one thing. Just have a plan on what you're going to do on those days so that you're not waking up and wondering what to do that day. That'll make you feel a lot better. And even if it doesn't seem like you're getting the reactions you want or things are slowing down, just keep on doing it. And then also we reached out to the Kickstarter team a couple of times before this project launched, which is an incredible resource that anyone is open to, just everyone. And for example, like giving away those copies to the teachers, Kickstarter has rules very specific about giveaways for you to reach out to them and say, like, hey, this is what we're planning. Does this meet your requirements? Will this break the rules? Is this a good idea? Do you think this is crazy? So just having their experts consult with us a couple of times and saying, like, yep, we're totally cool with this. We think it's a great idea. We'll support it. All these things. That made a huge difference in helping me, even with the experience, understand how best we could use that time to keep the momentum of the project going.
For sure, for sure. I also saw you guys made a very deliberate choice to do or collect shipping charges off of Kickstarter. I'm kind of curious, like, what informed that decision, and have you done that with every project, Lindsay?
No, this is new for me. And it's mostly because of the past year or two, right? Because of COVID and some other things. So there's a couple of things that are going on right now that if anyone's looking to launch a Kickstarter project, they need to be very careful about. One is the VAT and tax laws for the European Union and then also for Australia, pretty much everywhere. They're cracking down on how taxes work. So you can't just import to the country to circumvent those taxes, right? Which is kind of how the Kickstarter model was built originally. At least that's kind of naturally how it turned into. So there's the new tax laws, which everyone is kind of trying to figure out together. And then shipping and freight and shortages of supplies are really, really bad right now. So shipping prices can be upwards of 5 times more than they were just a year ago.
Insane, you know.
Yeah, it's insane. And we don't know what's going to happen. And same thing, things like cardboard boxes and cardboard, anything that has to do with wood in any capacity, they're all like everyone is just gunning for them and they're all fighting over them and stuff. Like I said, even with the cardboard box being a question mark, the safest route was to charge those shipping prices after, because while we did have estimates and we were able to stick to those estimates in the final pledge manager, which is going to open soon, it gave us the flexibility and let the backers know, like, hey, if we need to adjust to keep the company alive, because that is a trap that you can fall into.
For sure. Yeah.
We're going to do that. And I think it was a really solid decision. I'm very happy we did it. Our estimates ended up being correct. They didn't continue to fluctuate past that point. But if they had, we would have been all right. And yeah, it was just, I think you can add anything if you want, but I think it was a really good decision.
Yeah, that's a super smart decision for sure.
I completely agree with the decision. And this time period is very hard to navigate through, especially when it comes to the supply shortages that are taking place. So I think the customers also understand from the beginning that we're trying to do the best by them, but we also as a company understand what is going on in the world and building those expectations in to the customer base. We certainly got some comments earlier on that of other people that were doing it differently, but then have also heard many, many horror stories of other people doing it differently, and some people not even be able to make the margins that they initially expected to make because of the amount of things that have changed. We're also very well connected with a lot of other company owners in the industry and understand a lot of the things that they're going through right now because of the changes. So these kinds of precautions allow us to make sure that the company is making the wisest decisions moving forward and ensuring that we're going to be able to deliver the best product to the customers in the best condition possible.
Yeah, I think you guys are super well thought out. And it's obviously not even for you. It's just to make sure that the customers get a good product and they can get new games in the future, right? Because if you don't think all that stuff through, you can't produce new stuff, right?
Yeah, nothing's worse than like backing a project that never delivers. That's got to be the word. You know what I mean? Like anything you can do to avoid that is going to be the right decision.
So I have one question, a little bit deeper question, I guess, which is, in thinking about your life and your career, to be able to bring a game to market like this and have people play it around the world, like for you, this is for both of you, what would you say is, that moment where for you it makes it all worthwhile? Is it when you're getting a profitable company set up? Is it when you have people that are writing in saying they love the game? Is it when they're playing it? Like for you, what is the most passionate part about this experience? We can start with Isaac.
For me, it's when new friendships are formed around something that you made.
Interesting.
I get the absolute greatest joy in the world when I know that someone made a new friend or some new connection was made because of something that I put into this world. I've been absolutely honored with the ability to see entire groups come together that would have never existed if it wasn't for a game that I made. I've been invited to weddings that wouldn't have happened. It's an incredible joy to see people come together around the table over something you've made, or even just discover this wonderful, beautiful hobby and industry as well through something that you put into this world. So that is my greatest treasure, and that is why I keep doing this.
Super cool. Great answer too. What about you, Lindsay?
Yeah, mine's probably twofold, and one of them is similar to Isaac's. So The ability to give an experience to people you don't even know and bring that fun into the world is just an amazingly rewarding thing. Like, I think about my first con where I had a game release, and it was a party game, and I came around a corner and there was a huge group of people playing that game and like laughing and cracking themselves up. And I was so overwhelmed, I went around the corner and like broke down, because it was just such a powerful moment to see people who I had no idea who they were playing with something that I had created, and it was bringing them so much fun and happiness. And that's something that I've always wanted to do since I started becoming a game designer. And then the second part is just, it is such a fulfilling career for me. I feel challenged and excited and fulfilled. I haven't always felt that in my jobs. I haven't always woken up and been really excited about what I was going to make that day, or felt this level of passion, which has some drawbacks, because when you're that passionate, you're very emotionally tied to what people think about your product. But just to like wake up and be that excited to go to work and to make something and get to deliver that experience, I don't ever want to do anything else. It's just, it'll always just hit me so powerful that my life creates these things, and that through my efforts, I can bring those experiences to people and make myself and my family really happy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also with Keystone, you're even adding to another portion there, which is you're increasing awareness about like the wilderness and all these different animals that people don't know about, and people are learning new things. So you're also kind of affecting their life in that way, which is super cool. And I think it really shows, honestly, like just looking through the campaign here, you guys have done your diligence. It looks like it's made with care, right? And even from the very little like parchment look on the images there as I'm scrolling down, you can tell you guys this is like a labor of love for you and something you are really passionate about. I can see that for sure.
Yeah, and I think going forward, like one of the things that Isaac and I started the company for is because we only wanted to do projects that were labors of love. Like, if you see us come out with something, it's because we really care about it, or the person who made it really cares to the point where we're like, oh, we got to make this happen for you.
Definitely.
So definitely, like, one of the number one reasons that Isaac and I are doing this is because moving forward, we want to make things that have deeper meanings, and things that the whole team is in love with, and things that speak about who we are and how we see the world.
So I just got one or two more questions for you here. One is, as sort of a newer creation, what other types of games can people expect from Rose Gauntlet? Are they going to be mainly nature games, or like what can people kind of expect in the future from you guys?
We definitely want to continue the Keystone series. We're hoping to release additional continents for Keystone, such as Keystone Africa and Keystone South America, and hopefully all of them, if we can make that work for the company. We also are working on another project called Life After Dungeon, which you guys can see a little bit of preview art for on our website, rosegauntlet.com. In that project, it's going to be co-designed by me and Lindsay. We are working on it to try to bring a very interesting thing that we've been thinking a lot about in the past, is just, what do you leave behind? What is your meaning in life? It's a big project, but we absolutely love RPGs and dungeon crawlers, and kind of want to see a beautiful melding of them in between. So it's going to kind of be definitely more in the fantasy realm. If you guys have ever played any sort of dungeon crawlers in the past, this is going to be our twist on it. If you guys are also familiar with some of my work in the past, such as Forgotten Waters and Dead of Winter, there's definitely going to be lots of influences there as well. And we're also working on our first video game called Gone to Gaia. We have a lot of work left on that, but it's a game much like Slay the Spire inspired as well. And there's a very interesting story attached to that. And you guys can check out more about that on our website too.
Yeah, you guys are hustling for sure there. That's awesome. My final question for you both is, if you were to speak directly to a member of the audience, and we can kind of end on this note, if you have a final tip for them about the Kickstarter process or about board game creation, or you have a word of encouragement, we can kind of end on that note for a first-time creator in the audience. And let's start with Lindsay, and then we can go to Isaac.
Yeah, I would say one of the biggest things, and this is something that working with Isaac has really taught me, is don't be afraid to ask people who have done it for advice and help and just what they've done. Everyone's going to have the time to answer. Not everyone's going to have the chance, but a lot of people are willing to give that help out. And one of the biggest things I've learned since starting this company is Isaac is fearless when he wants to ask someone for help, no matter how important they are, no matter what company, how big of a company they run, no matter what they do, he will just straight up ask what he wants to know. And that is something that has, moving forward, I will always do now, because there's been so many resources and so many things that even with my experience, I had no idea that this had worked for someone else, and it was a brilliant idea. And so many people, especially in our industry, which is a very collaborative industry, are willing to share that information and help out. That would be mine for sure.
Awesome. And what about you, Isaac?
Yeah, and to add to that, I would say make sure to try to do your research, understand the industry and the target audience that you're trying to go after, understands why does this game deserve to exist? Answer that question. There are so many games out there. What is this bringing to the table that's really very interesting? What's different? What problem is it solving? And try to strive for excellence every step of the way, and make sure that what you're bringing to life is something that you really, really care about, because it's going to be a hard process every step of the way. There are definitely going to be peaks and valleys along all of that, but getting to the finish line is a hard road. Just because it's cardboard and paper doesn't mean it's the easiest thing in the world. And make sure that it's something that you're truly passionate about and want to bring to life, because there's going to be moments where you question that journey, and that's what's going to get you through it.
Love it. Guys, thank you so much for coming on the show. Congratulations on all your success, and look forward to your next launch here.
Thank you so much, Salvador. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. Again, my name is Salvador Briggman. Thank you for spending your valuable time with me here today. I hope you almost enjoyed this classroom environment or listening in as a fly on the wall on today's podcast episode. In addition, I hope you took away a lot of good tricks, advice, tips, logistics when it comes to getting the product from A to Z, from your actual manufacturer to the doorstep of the person who usually going to change their life, man, whatever product you have. I hope you took away a lot of good stuff. The other thing I want to mention is when it comes to the ways that I help creators, there are a lot of different ways. So I help with coaching, I help with my education, my books, my courses, this podcast, my YouTube channel, my blog, etc. I also work with unique and specific projects when it comes to running them. It really depends on a case-by-case basis there, and I'm super overloaded right now. One of the things that I do also like to do is put out free information for people that are just starting on this journey. So first of all, if that sounds like you, like you're just kind of getting started and you just kind of want to know, like, what do I got to do next? You can go to the link I'm about to mention and you can join my free course there. So that link is crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter. That is crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter. Just go to that link, enter your name and email. You'll start to get some free training videos from me that will get you up to speed ASAP. In addition, if you'd like to reach out to me personally, you can also book a coaching call, or you can join my coaching community. You can go to my website, crowdcrux.com, crowdcrux.com. You can learn more about that there. You can learn about this new mastermind that I have going on. You can also learn more about some of the other things that I have going on there. And in addition, probably the best resource if you really want to just like stay in the grind, if you just want to keep learning, you can go and check out my YouTube channel. Just search my name, Salvador Briggman, and it should come up there. But that being said, thank you so much, man, for joining me. I appreciate you. Hope wherever you are in the world and you're listening, you're going to absolutely crush it this next week with hustling and getting all that work done to get your project up and running. I'm here to support you. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.